I want to spend a minute just talking to you about how we communicate online. If you think about face-to-face communication, there's a lot that takes place when you're communicating to somebody face-to-face. You've got your body language, you've got the expressions in your face that are helping to communicate the message, as well as the tone of your voice, the inflection in your voice. There's actually a lot of research that's done about how information gets communicated subconsciously through face-to-face communication. When we're online, we lose that ability to have those subtle cues that help us understand what it is that the person's saying. And if you think about a classroom environment where you meet the teacher and you meet your students and your peers, and then you go and communicate online, they already know who you are. They know your sense of humor. They know the way that you speak. They understand kind of the little subtle things that you say and what you mean by them. But none of that stuff exists in the e-learning environment because we haven't met you face-to-face. We haven't gotten a chance to get to know you. When I was first teaching, I used to use email with my students, and I had one particular student who would often write messages and include LOL in it. And when I was a student myself, way back when, my mom used to send my lunch with a little note in it, and she'd write a note, "Hope you're having a good day, LOL Mom." And it was LOL meant lots of love. So I read this email message from the student, and being a young teacher, thought, "Oh my God, she's in love with me. I've got to stop this right away." So I wrote the student back and said, this isn't appropriate, teacher-student boundaries, and all that kind of information. And they wrote back one single message, and it said, LOL equals laugh out loud. And I'm sure they looked at it and thought, oh my God, my teacher's in love with me. So you've got to be careful about communicating online and how we communicate online. When you're communicating in the e-learning environment, it's really important that you keep in mind the way that you speak to people is a representation of who you are as a person, and that those first impressions really do matter and they last. If you think about how you speak to your teachers versus how you speak to your friends, it's often very different. The way you talk to your friends in the hallway or in the cafeteria is much different than the way that you talk to a teacher in a classroom. You need to mimic that when you're in the e-learning environment. When you're writing messages to the teachers, you should be using proper grammar. You should be using punctuation. Avoid using short forms like LOL, or WTF, because at the end of the day, you're still swearing when you say WTF. So you want to make sure that you're communicating in a way that's appropriate for the audience that you're communicating with. And this is something that carries on not only in school, but also beyond into the business world. If you were to write a message to an employer or an email to an employer when you're applying for a job and you include lots of short forms and you have WTF in it and all these things, often you won't get a call back for that job because the employer makes a decision about who you are as a person based on the way that you write. When you're writing email messages and stuff online, please try to avoid using those short forms. Please also, though, use emoticons to help indicate your message. If you're saying something funny and you mean it to be funny, use a smiley face emoticon. It helps the other person to know that you're joking so that they don't actually take it seriously and misunderstand what it is that you're trying to say. Throughout the course, as you're writing messages and stuff, always take an extra moment, read it over, and make sure, is this exactly what I want to say and how I want to say it? Last but not least, it's really easy if you're angry or frustrated to send off a harsh email really quickly without actually thinking about what you've said and how you've said it. And often those messages would never be something that you would say to a person face to face. The reason being, you don't have that person in front of you watching their response, and you don't have to worry about them responding to you immediately. In email, that doesn't exist, so please be careful. I always say, make the 24-hour rule. If you're frustrated or angry with something, wait 24 hours and then compose your message. Be calm about it, explain your point of view, and you'll often get a much better response. Good luck with your course throughout the year. I know that you're going to be able to handle, writing email messages appropriately throughout the term. We want to make sure that everyone's starting off on the right foot. Good luck, guys.